Twitter versus game theory, Twitter versus game theory, Twitter versus game theory. What did game theory do in order to gain so much criticism on Twitter? And the answer to that is actually quite shocking. It all starts when the show's creator MatPat tweets out this: giving a presentation to a big media company. Etika may be gone, but we're trying to make sure his memory and his message aren't forgotten. Now this tweet on its own is fine, but the issue comes in with the image attached to it. It shows a panel from that presentation where in it has the headline "Impact of Cancel Culture, Etika's Suicide," and includes a quote from Etika's final video where he says, "I'm sorry to those of you who I betrayed. I'm sorry for leaving such a stained legacy. I hope that my story maybe helps to make YouTube a better place somehow in the future, to where people know boundaries and limits on how far things should go." Now, without knowing anything about Etika, and based on the headline of the panel, you would assume that when he mentions limits and boundaries on how far things should go, he's talking about how far viewers should go in criticizing YouTubers that are in the process of being cancelled, because it may affect their mental health to the point of wanting to commit suicide. But for anyone who actually watched the video where this quote is taken from, he ends up saying something completely different. Here's the full clip.
I shouldn't have pushed so many people away. Now I've got nobody. You know, I wasn't suicidal before. I really wasn't. But one thing I didn't realize was that the walls were closing around me so fast. I really had no intention of killing myself, but I would always push it too far. I guess I am mentally ill. Or maybe I will. I'm not trying to put responsibility on it. I mean, I did a lot of wrong too. I did a lot of wrong. Everyone's got to pay for what they've done wrong at some point. Everyone's got to pay for their sins at some point. I guess mine caught up to me. I'm sorry to those of you who I betrayed. I'm sorry for leaving such a stained legacy. I hope that my story maybe helps to make YouTube a better place somehow in the future, to where people know boundaries and limits of how far things should go. In an attempt to be edgy, I fucked up my entire life.
Now, as you can tell from watching that clip, MatPat completely abused the context of that quote. He was not talking about other people taking things too far. He was 100% talking about himself and his own tendency to be too edgy, with his jokes leading people to think that his mental illness was another one of his jokes. To take him out of context in that blatant of a way just completely disgusts me to my core. Like, there is no way you can watch that video and think he's talking about anyone other than himself, yet MatPat frames it in a way to where he's blaming his suicide on cancel culture, which is completely not the case. And to use that quote just to push his own agenda is completely disgusting to me. Cancel culture is definitely an issue, and maybe should be presented to these media companies, but there's much better examples than Etika. You could use James Charles, you could use Slazo, you could use even ProJared. And I feel the reason he used Etika was because his cancellation resulted in suicide, so that would be the strongest case to present to this media company. But what bothers me is that his suicide never had anything to do with cancel culture. It always had to do with people not believing his mental illness and thinking it's another publicity stunt that Etika was known for doing. His catchphrase, Joy-Con Boys, originated from a stunt he did where he pretended to get an early version of the Nintendo Switch. If you'd like to learn more about the events leading up to Etika's suicide, I have a video on this channel documenting just that you can check out, but keep in mind I did create it before he passed away, so some of the ways I word things is not appropriate to the knowledge we do know today, because the video was mainly made to convince people that he wasn't faking his mental illness and to warn people, hey, this is a serious thing, but obviously we all know now that it was a serious thing. Moving on to the Twitter reactions to this, we have this first one from Etika's friend Fiona Nova, who replies to Matt by saying, "I really am a huge fan of your work and watch all your videos, but I was also a very close friend to Desmond. His death was not about cancel culture. His death was 100% about mental illness. He refused help until it was too late. Please talk about normalizing mental illness instead." Justin Wang says, "Come on dude, you don't have to make content for the algorithm in real life. JT Sexkick says, I loathe cancel culture, but fuck MatPat for this. Etika died because he was mentally ill and didn't get the help he needed. If anyone is to blame, it's all the people who didn't take the signs seriously enough and treated the whole thing like a big meme. Pixelbuster says, no MatPat, Etika is not an example of cancel culture. Go back to making your shitty clickbait theory videos. Cancel culture had next to nothing to do with Etika's death. It was mental health and his fan base. Sure, people existed that tried to cancel Etika, but that was few and far between. Myself and many others were kind of worried and skeptical about Etika because of his mental self. Joey responds with, what? This is clearly talking about how the canceling mentality online can affect people drastically, which 100% affected Etika very hard. Pixelbuster responds, it was mental illness, not cancel culture. To which Joey responds, do you disagree that the actions of large majorities online can affect someone's mental health? Pixelbuster responds, yes, but cancel culture has little to no involvement in this. It was a combination of his fan base and mental health. Joey then responds, what makes you think that the large amount of hate and online abuse he received was from non-fans based off the cancel culture that didn't affect him, but the actions of his fanbase did? What makes you so sure of that you'd say it as a definite? A-Star responds to MatPat by saying, Etika's situation was clearly around the importance of mental health, not cancel culture? What? I'm legitimately upset. What on earth led you to the conclusion that it was cancel culture that took his life? What would he have even been cancelled for? How fucking irritating. Laughing my ass off, BWC says, thank you for completely missing the opportunity to raise awareness for mental health instead of taking a blind swing at something you clearly don't understand. Etika was never cancelled. People were confused, but he never did anything that people attacked him for. What about the other slide? It's clear the presentation is on cancel culture. In fact, most media organizations, I'm currently talking to Instagram right now, are aware of what's going on. The impact of cancel culture doesn't lead to suicide. The impact of mental health does. Cancel culture should not be confused with backlash. What you say and do can result in backlash, but cancel culture has an element of attack to it, an unjustified attack, based on loose fact. What needs to be discussed is the impact of social media on mental health. Cancel culture is a symptom of social media's growing role in everyday life, and how easy it is to disseminate information to a global audience. Cancel culture is a reflection on society, the lust for justice by any means possible, and the unfounded truth that victims don't lie. Cancel culture does cause harm, and that is evident in recent cases. The lack of opportunity to respond, accompanied by the amount of hate derived from false facts, is detrimental to someone's mental health. But Etika did not die because of cancel culture. He died because no one understood his situation, and people are still unaware of how twisted mental illnesses can be. Matthias responds to MatPat by saying, what does Etika's situation have to do with cancel culture? He didn't face backlash because of a shitty thing he did, or was accused of in a few cases. He was simply bullied and harassed for having mental health issues. Sorry, but there's no correlation here. Black Swan responds, he did face backlash from some skeptics who believed. Matthias responds to him by saying, cancel culture isn't literally just bullying though. He was just endlessly made fun of for having a literal mental breakdown. Black Swan responds with, good point, but even making fun of is still part of the toxic nature of cancel culture, and we must let them know. They might be causing harm than laugh. Matthias responds, it's more nuanced than that. I think it's dangerous to think of cancel culture as simply bullying, because in most cases, people are cancelled for serious reasons, not bullied just because. It's a double-edged sword. I won't deny how many victims it has helped. Nicholas Diorio says, if there's one thing I've learned from the supporters of MatPat, is that cancel culture will now be used as a blanket term for hate regardless of whether it applies or not. It's very similar to my individual criticism of The Rewired Soul, but now on a platform scale. And then Colossal's crazy responds to this tweet with a picture that says, cancel culture. This card may be kept until needed or sold. Get out of jail free. Holy shit, he actually made a parody of the Monopoly get out of jail free card for cancel culture. That is hilarious. What's even more hilarious though is this tweet thread, which starts out with someone replying to Matt saying, Etika was never cancelled. What are you talking about? To which Black Super Saiyan responds with, clowning or clown culture is a derivative of cancel culture. So Zython responds, no it isn't, to which Black Super Saiyan responds, all jokes aside though, What makes you think it's not cancel culture? Just want to hear something from an opposing view. Maybe I can see what you're talking about. Zython says, because it's not calling out bad behavior. It's just right-wing edgelords being stupid. To which Black Super Saiyan responds, I feel you on that honestly. I just see cancel culture as anyone complaining about something they've contributed to, like the Etika situation with clowning and being hurt over stand-up comedy like Dave Chappelle's Sticks and Stones. I see clowning as a type of cancel culture. Read the thread, man. Guys, I have it in my bio, dude. Like, clown emojis, they kill. Clown emojis are the embodiment of everything wrong in this world. Do not post clowns to anybody because that is just canceling them, apparently. God. Just ate pancakes responds to Matt by saying, wow, people will blame fucking cancel culture on suicide, but not the actual issues of mental health care and the abuse people face attempting to get it and while getting it? Hey Matt, how about instead of doing this nonsense, how about you pay for someone's therapy? Or push for policies to help get people therapy? Joshua A responds to Matt Pat by saying, this should have been about Alec Holocaust, not Etika. And Alec Holocaust is someone who actually ended up committing suicide because Zoe Quinn falsely accused him of sexual assault. From what I know, I haven't really looked super deep into the story, but that is kind of baseline of what I know about it. But moving on to the next tweet, we have Andy Signor responding to Matt Pat by saying, be careful, Matt. During our time at Defy together, I admired your hustle, your ability to read trends, and our channel analytics to grow game theory / film theory. But don't blur cancel culture. Etika wasn't cancelled. He was bullied over his mental health. I was cancelled. Happy to talk anytime. Got Nintendo responds to him by saying, what were you even cancelled for? I don't remember anything of the sort. And then he links to a video called #MeTooMisfire where he explains how he got cancelled for false sexual assault allegations. I will leave a link to that video in the description below for anybody who is curious on checking it out. The Little Sonic responds to Matt Pat by saying, I hate cancel culture with a passion, but Etika's death had nothing to do with cancel culture. You're putting two things that have no business being together in the same argument just for the sake of it. It's honestly kind of disrespectful if you ask me. Optimus Prime responds to Matt by saying, big dog, you turned someone's mental health battle into a cancel culture topic. I can't remember one time where the media was calling in mass for this man to be cancelled. I can remember the many signs of mental illness he displayed before he took his life. You missed his point. Werewolf Mom's response to Matt by saying, Matt, just fucking retire. And what I want to say to you, Werewolf Moms, is just fucking unblock me. Why am I blocked? I have no idea why this person has me blocked. Continuing on, we have Willie Mac Show responding to Matt Pat by saying, what the fuck? Etika was never cancelled. Why are people like Matt Pat weaponizing him now? It's disgusting. This BS will only make YouTube crack down even more, which I agree. I mean, if presentations like this are being shown off to multiple media companies, I can't imagine it would result in seeing any of these media companies take action in favor of free speech. We're probably going to be restricted to what we can say online even more because of presentations like this. Now, we actually have a few positive comments to Matt Pat's tweet that I want to go over to show the other side of the argument. Even though I don't personally agree with it, I do feel like it is right for me to at least showcase what some people are saying in support of Matt. One of these people is Alice Pika, who was formerly the girlfriend of Etika. I believe they broke up maybe a year or two prior to his suicide, but regardless, she was very close to him. And she ended up saying, thank you so much for keeping his legacy strong. Jacob Cobb responds to her by saying, this is great, but it has nothing to do with cancel culture, does it? Etika seems like he should be raising mental health awareness. It's not like it came out right beforehand that Etika was a sex offender. Action Points responds by saying, not everyone who cancel culture hits is. I think what Matt Pat is trying to point to is the toxicity that fuels cancel culture. I recall Etika regularly got hit by that. Still a stretch to say it's cancel culture, but my job isn't making stuff on the internet, so what would I know? We have this guy named Game Theory Not Live who says, why do people have to be so toxic about everything Matt Pat does? I swear to God, people will find any reason to hate on him. And the excuse is always Sans' Nest, Pope Undertale, Toby Fox. If you can't understand that Matt is doing something good, then reconsider your tweet. You did not know what is happening behind those meeting doors, so don't assume solely based off the title of the presentation. Are you really trying to say that the spamming of clown emojis and hatred was not cancel culture? I have seen numerous tweets and posts about Etika with hundreds of likes and upvotes that correlate the death to cancel culture. No one bats an eye when people do that. But God forbid MatPat spread awareness about the same thing. Got it. He's not milking his death either. That's a disgusting statement. He's hardly addressed it online. And that's not a bad thing when he literally made a whole presentation in his honor. Not surprised that many people disagreeing with Matt on this are canceling him. You're seriously trying to tell me that MatPat, a man who raised $200K for mental health research after his close friend committed suicide, isn't knowledgeable enough to speak about Etika? That literally makes no sense. I'm not gonna lie and say I haven't seen good points made on this subject. Yes, Matt could have used a more specific title, but if it's a presentation in which we don't know any of the talking point, it's not up for assumption that Matt is milking this. When your fave gets cancelled on Twitter, you defend them and say that cancel culture is nasty, but when MatPat does something good that you misinterpret, it's a different story. Hey, everything is always blown out of proportion when MatPat does something. When he made a video about Ronnie, people were angry, saying that he was milking his friend's death, and that he was disgusting garbage. Those people didn't even acknowledge the money he raised in his name. So those are all the notable tweets that I could scrounge up on the topic. I would love to hear what you guys think in the comment section below regarding this. To me, I just think it's a complete misrepresentation of what Etika went through, and more importantly, I think it's a misrepresentation of the final words Etika gave to us before he took his own life. Before ending the video, I'd like to shout out my channel members: Blue Heat, Nina, Flameflan, Chaos Bender, Misha, MarkTube, Diesel Meow, and Attila Back. If you'd like to become a member, it is only $1 a month, and you get a shout out at the end of every video. If you want to keep up to date with all the Twitter drama going on, I highly recommend subscribing to this channel with notifications on, and if you want to see me cover all of this in real time, be sure to follow my Twitter as I frequently retweet and talk about drama that is going on within the community. With all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in another video.